enter cities where there are even less opportunities to be active. It's very difficult to find open green spaces. We know from lots of studies that physical activity is extremely important. Now the world is talking about exercise as medicine. The world is facing huge challenges in terms of cost for medication for type 2 diabetics and other lifestyle diseases. And now more and more research shows that some of the best medicine, that's actually exercise. You can make type 2 diabetics free of medication, for instance. If you're physical active, you reduce your risk of Alzheimer with 30%. That's a huge reduction in risk from being physical active.
KOMPAN builds outdoor fitness sites around the world to create happier and healthier communities.
You can do circuit training, you can do interval training in boot camps, and the best thing is you can get many people involved at the same time.
The KOMPAN Fitness Institute is all about using science and knowledge to build great and engaging outdoor fitness sites.
Keep going faster. Yeah, you're about 300. Yeah, perfect, perfect.
Our ambition is to create products that are at the same quality, equally effective at what you would expect from an indoor fitness center.
One question stands above all the others at KOMPAN Fitness Institute.
How do we create things that motivates people, that makes people come back and do exercise again and again?
The answers are many. For instance, by designing and organizing the equipment in ways that makes for an exciting social experience, or by creating equipment that can be used by many types of people. KOMPAN Fitness Institute talks a lot with the users of the fitness sites.
Often it shows that we are engaging many previously inactive users that come to our sites, and because it's freely available 24/7, then they actually start exercising.
That was my first time here. It really pushed me. The arm work over there was really intense and horrible, but it was good. I'd definitely come back here. It's got everything that you pretty much need.
I think spaces like this would really encourage people to come out a bit more because it doesn't take much. You can literally just drop off, do a 20-30 minutes session and you're off again.
Our dear beloved Indonesia, it's time to stop and take a break, to distance ourselves for a while and hope for a better future. We are longing to hear the sounds of the waves and to see the beauty that awaits around every corner of this land. Our beautiful motherland, the time will come when the sky will again shine bright and we'll come back stronger.
Welcome to the final play approval of Giants, a sky-high themed play structure for school ages.
De er sjovt, og de mærkt, og de hurtigere, og det kilder sig.
We love testing. It's one of the best things we can do is observe what the kids do, what they say, how they act on equipment.
Nogle gange så kan jeg få højdeskræk. Og når vi går på de der firkantede, så bliver jeg bange, fordi jeg får også højdeskræk.
Most of them reported that, wow, this is wild, it's really wild, it's dark, it's scary, it's fun scary.
And it's fun. Listen to this recording of a boy with an action cam on his chest. He used the word fun more than 15 times during his first minutes in the Giants Towers, packed with fun and thrilling play activities from head to toe.
Luckily, it turned out as we expected, but it also surprised us. And one of the surprises is how much they really help each other. And that sort of social cooperation this whole platform is made for. It's made for going up fast, going down fast, but it's also made for hesitating and helping each other out.
Man kan rutsche, og man kan spille kryds og bold på den der, og så kan man have det sjovt med den der hængekøje.
45 wonderful kids, ages from 6 and up to 11, and they're just playing wildly and madly.
We have been here for 1.5 hours and they have been playing all the time.
great day.
The children gave a big thumbs up to the play value of the giants. The giants are now ready to excite children all over the world with exhilarating themes and thrilling play activities.
And we are recording this webinar for documentation, and it will be live on YouTube. It will be uploaded to YouTube. So if you do mind getting your video taken, please turn off your video, but otherwise please turn on your video. We'd like to see you. Next, please. And please do not forget to fill in the presence list via the link below. And this link will also be in the chat box. So please do so that we know who is really attending. And I have now the honor to introduce you to Her Excellency Dewi Savitri Wahab, Ambassador of Republic of Indonesia to Denmark and Lithuania, to present her opening words. And the last two webinars have been great collaboration between Indonesia and Denmark, and it paves more for collaboration in the future. So let's hear a few words from Ibu Dewi. Thanks for honoring us to be here tonight. Please, the stage is yours. Thank you, Ibu Dewi.
Thank you, Ibu Daliana. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to those who participate in this webinar. Ibu Daliana, thank you so much for inviting me to give a few words opening the webinar. Before that, I wanted to express my appreciation, and I want to commend the work of the IDN Diaspora Global Chapter on Livable City. I think you have done a very active engagement, engaging all the diaspora, as well as those who are interested in the livable cities. I remember before this, I attended the webinar on the another also, I think it's about the architecture. I think it's very wonderful, and to see how the collaboration between Indonesia and Denmark. Colleagues, friends, let me introduce myself. I'm Dewi Wahab. I'm, as mentioned by Ibu Daliana, I'm the ambassador for Denmark and Lithuania, since I'm going to assume my position. So I guess I would like to speak a little bit about Denmark collaboration, Indonesia's collaboration with Denmark. Friends, Indonesia and Denmark have entered into 70th years of relations. One of the aspects is that Indonesia and Denmark a strategic partnership, and one aspect is in the area of environment. And this is where I think the webinar today is very important, because your webinar actually can identify more on the collaboration about the green city, because livable cities includes green space, green building, green architecture, and infrastructure where people can play around. Children can have, they can play around in terms of the parks and stuff like that. So I think that this is a very good collaboration. Livable city, I think it's also very important issue, because everybody wants to have a livable city. Copenhagen, I think, one of the most livable cities. Vienna, I know Vancouver, I know Melbourne has been named as a livable cities. I think 4 years consecutively. I don't know last year who is going to be the livable city, but I think the livable cities is important, and it's important because it will sustain all the inhabitants to make sure that our future generation can have better cities where they can have a wonderful childhood and can grow up in the environmentally sustainable city. So I think today webinar, it's important in that sense. Now the theme is playful and healthy city. Of course, if you have a livable city like in Copenhagen, like in Amsterdam, like in Melbourne, like in Vienna, or one I think in Vancouver, you're going to have a healthy and a playful city. So what I'm hoping is that tonight's discussion is not only stop at the discussion. I hope this is the first step. This is not an end in itself. I hope colleagues will discuss and identify possible collaborations where diaspora can contribute, particularly to Indonesia, in establishing a livable and healthy and happier, playful city. So again, Bu Daliana, thank you very much again for inviting me. And I hope, as I said, this will be a first step into identifying a concrete collaboration. Particularly, I will encourage friends from Denmark and from Indonesia to come up with some collaboration, and rest assured that when I go when I arrive, hopefully next week in Copenhagen, please do keep in touch with me so I can follow up what has been discussed or what has been identified as a concrete collaboration, because by doing that, I think diaspora has contributed to the development of playful and livable and healthy cities in Indonesia. So with that, Bu Daliana, congratulations again, and I hope all of you are going to have wonderful and constructive discussion with regard to livable city, a playful and healthy city. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the powerful words of encouragement, Your Excellency Bu Dewi. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please allow me now to introduce our moderator, a fantastic personality, chair of IDN Liveable Cities. So Ibu Wiwi Chok is a landscape architect, currently working for the Urban Planning Department for the Municipality of Rotterdam. Her expertise is in landscape and urban design with a passion for integrated water and landscape planning. From 86 to 97, she worked on projects in Indonesia and throughout Southeast Asia, United Kingdom, and Australia. Since 2013, she is actively involved in the Task Force Livable Cities of the Indonesian Diaspora Network with integrated water and landscape planning as a specialization. Welcome, Ibu Wiwi Chok. Fantastic to have you here. And please go on with the moderation and the whole event. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Daliana, for opening the event. And thank you, Her Excellency Ibu Dewi Safitri Wahab, for your encouraging opening remarks. Good evening for everyone in Indonesia, and good afternoon and good morning. A warm welcome to IDN Liveable Cities 4th Interactive Webinar. Today I will be your moderator, and we will discuss the topic of playful and healthy city. So I will start with a statement. Blessed by tropical climate where one can potentially spend more time outdoors, Indonesian cities have the potential to create excellent public spaces. One of the indicators of a livable city is the presence of accessible public spaces so residents can recreate and interact with each other. A well-designed network of parks, sports, and play areas throughout the city can contribute to a healthy living environment for all its residents. Next to being beneficial for well-being and health, attractive parks and playing areas have positive effects on the physical, social, and creative development for everyone, especially children. So the central question today is, What should cities provide to keep their residents of all ages healthy and active? With projects from Southeast Asia and as well elsewhere, the presenters would like to show exemplary practices and discuss with you how to successfully integrate outdoor public spaces into urban design. So before starting with the presentations, please allow me to introduce our speakers and commentators of today. First of all, I would like to welcome our first speaker, Mr. Yele Terry from Rumble Studio Dreisaitl. Yele Terry is a landscape architect and the design director of Rumble Studio Dreisaitl, Singapore. Rumble Studio Dreisaitl is a multidisciplinary landscape architecture practice seeking to raise awareness of the social and ecological value of water in urban design, specializing in the integration of art, urban hydrology, environmental engineering, and landscape architecture within an urban context. Prior to joining Rumble Studio Dreisaitl, Yele Terry has over 18 years of professional experience designing and managing both large and small landscape projects around the world. He has developed and delivered high-profile projects, significantly contributing to the public realm from procurement through to implementation. And as our next speaker, I would like to welcome Mrs. Janet Vick Jespersen from KOMPAN Play Institute. Janet is the head of KOMPAN Play Institute, a team of passionate play researchers. And Janet researches, innovates, and advocates playscapes. She served on the scientific committees and organizing boards on several international organizations and conferences on child-friendly city planning. She authored numerous publications on playground and health, inclusion and well-being in an urbanizing world. The research of the KOMPAN Play Institute informs KOMPAN Play design through user tests and user involvement. Janet is an MA of Scandinavian Philology and taught at universities in Germany and Denmark. She is the Vice President of the European Network for Child-Friendly Cities. And she is also a member of the advisory board of the Center for Sports and Learning at the University of Southern Denmark. Next, I would like to welcome our third keynote speaker, Mr. Morten Sacco from KOMPAN Fitness Institute. Mr. Sacco is a teaching associate professor at the University of Southern Denmark in the Department of Sports Science and Clinical Biomechanics. He is also senior manager of the KOMPAN Fitness Institute. In this role, he has great focus on implementing knowledge, trends, scientific research, and functional tests in the innovation of new outdoor fitness. Previously, Mr. Sacco has worked at internationally recognized research institutions and has co-authorship on 17 peer-reviewed scientific publications. Very remarkable resumes. And I would like to further welcome our commentators. First of all, Bob Hendrianto of the DKI Jakarta Provincial Government. Bob is the subdivision head of park planning at the Parks and City Forest Department of DKI Jakarta Provincial Government. His current duties and responsibilities are preparing and creating public parks for the Jakarta metropolitan region. Jakarta's public parks are very welcome by the residents, especially those residing in densely populated neighborhoods. The parks embrace their urban context by combining greenery with dynamic community uses, water resources, natural environment, and tropical landscape. They contribute to a healthy and livable city. Prior to joining DKI Jakarta Provincial Government from 2005 to 2008, Bob was a senior landscape architect at international consultant Shellspin Asia, working on projects all over Indonesia and the United Kingdom. And last but not least, a warm welcome to Bapak Andika Prasetya, of the Ministry of Public Works and Housing. Andika Budi Prasetya is an architect and urban designer with more than 15 years of working experience. He's working on sustainable issues under the Directorate of Building Development, Directorate General of Human Settlements of the Indonesian Ministry of Public Works and Housing. Since 2015, he has been responsible for managing the National Program of Green Cities Development under the commitment of 174 cities, as well as the Heritage Conservation Program with 54 cities across Indonesia. Since 2017, Pak Andika also serves as part of the assessor team towards the 100 Smart City movement in Indonesia, conducted by the Ministry of Communication and Information. His current position is as the sub-coordinator of Kalimantan region, with one of the main tasks and responsibilities to develop the planning and urban design of the Indonesian capital city, the new Indonesian capital city. He is also involved in a think tank on a series of policy development related to SDGs, National Agenda towards Sustainable Cities in Indonesia, including the roadmap for Indonesian green cities, the development of smart city, and the conservation of Indonesian heritage city under the Ministry of Public Works and Housing. Thank you all for joining, speakers and commentators. And now I would like to share the rundown for this evening. The event will last for 2 hours. We will next have 3 presentations of each 20 minutes and 2 reflections of each 5 minutes. Then we will be divided into 4 breakout rooms for group discussions for 20 minutes. And after that, we will come back to the plenary session or the main room, where we will have a Q&A session with all the speakers and commentators. And meanwhile, all the participants are encouraged to write their questions and to whom you address the question in the chat box. There will be a 5 minutes conclusion and reflection from my side, and then there will be a closing session, which includes a photo session. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to give the floor to the first keynote speaker, Yellow Terry, to deliver his presentation. You may start your screen, Yellow. The floor is yours, and you have 20 minutes for your presentation.
Good evening all, and thank you, Vivi, for the introduction. I hope my screen is shown and shared with all of you so that we can start the conversation. So as I said, I'm the design director at Rambau Studio Dreisetel, Singapore, and my story today is really about creating livable cities through green-blue infrastructure and how we look at the world around us and how we try project by project change the place we live in. The place we live in today and tomorrow will be a city like this. Yes, the COVID-19 situation is changing the landscape we're living in. We don't have enough space. With the COVID-19 and the circuit breaker, Bishan Park in Singapore was loaded with people because this was the only place we were allowed to go to. There was even not enough space to do safe distance within the park itself. So we don't have enough space. So how do you design for it if you don't have enough space within our dense cities? How do you create space? We believe in a scenario whereby you're doubling up programming, thinking about economies, ecologies, and enjoyment by doubling it up and creating space for each other. What do we mean with that? When we talk about economies, we really think about the place we live in and the sense of the place we live in and the connection we want to make with that place that we live in. And perhaps having farming close to the door could be a program that is interesting to have and could be something that we're interested in bringing close to you, because it's really about creating that knowledge of the place we live in and the products that live around us, the fauna and flora that sits around us, the water that comes out of the sky. Where is that going to? What's the place that we're living in and what is the place that we're going to live in tomorrow? Not only is it about the place itself, but it's also about the possibility of creating habitats for fauna and flora through the creation of water and beautifying water, making it active and alive. So water is one program, but creating it with the habitat that lays on top of it creates a possibility for doubling up. And of course, we as human beings are curious. We want to enjoy the place that we're designing. We want to enjoy the place that we live in. We want to explore and make it accessible. And thus creating spaces where we can activate and where we can exercise and play in and just relax within a green environment is important to us. As said, it's not about one single element. It's about combining and thinking in a system altogether that allows you to create a design, a strategy to allow an ecosystem to grow. I would like to showcase that through 3 different projects: Yishun Park, Jurong Lakeside Garden, and Kampung Admiralty. Yishun Park lays in the heartlands of Singapore, in the middle of the city, as part of a bigger programming related to creating more water and more space for water within the city. A existing canal was transformed into a river, a natural river bedding. And the only way to do that was not only to think in multiple layers and to combine programming on top of each other, but was really to think across and beyond the borders that are set through different organizations, different governments, and really to integrate this into one element. A river that flows, that creates a park space, that harvests water, that collects water, and that is a great open space for you and I to enjoy. More than that, it allows you to get close to nature. First of all, by creating this valley and this river flow that runs through in the beginning, not so nice neighborhood of Singapore, and by transforming, the neighborhood also transformed. It's a place where we now can get close to water. It's a place where we can integrate and play with water. It's a place where we create awareness and education about what water means to us in our life and how ecology can play a role with it. Because we bring people now close to nature, we allow people to get close to it, to integrate and to play around and to see how the natural environment around us is actually part of the place we live in. It's not a segregation between each other anymore, but it is a place we live in together. And in that way, by designing for it, we increase biodiversity. We increase the possibility of having fauna and flora, nature at the footstep of every project we're doing. Yishun Park pushed this to the next extreme. Not only is it a river that flows through a very beautiful green space, it is also a river that holds a lot of water. In the 1 to 25 year storm event, the park space is designed to increase the capacity of water. Basically, we're holding a lot of water within the site itself so that flooding at other locations is prevented. This park is designed to hold water. A few hours later, a day later, the water is gone and the park comes alive again. It is designing with the element. But of course, a park is nothing if you can't explore it. It's nothing if you can't get close to it and enjoy that space. Be active and alive in it. Create spaces for you and I to enjoy and to be close within that space. Jurong Lakeside Garden is one of the latest families of parks in Singapore. Similar like Gardens by the Bay, the Botanical Garden, Jurong Lakeside Garden transforms a neighborhood or a future neighborhood within the city. Jurong Lakeside Garden plays around with its location and the creation of habitats. Not only the creation of habitats, but also the restoration of habitats. The Austonia wetland, because back in the days, Singapore was covered with about 80% was covered with wetlands. A lot of our wetlands have disappeared. And here we took the opportunity to recreate and restore some of those lost habitats by creating a wetland, or by creating new accesses or edges along the water edge for you and I to enjoy. Just sit there, enjoy a fishing moment, or see how an otter swims through the water. Creating accessibility to that water is important. And by creating new habitats and ensuring that you and I can get close to it, we can form the transition between dry and wetland. We create new habitats for fauna to live in, for flora to grow in, like a clusia clove. We create a landscape that has a canvas that is completely new, and we can design for it. We can accept or we can create an identity. In this case, we recreated an identity that is the woodlands, or is actually the grasslands of Singapore. And so by transforming an open area into a grassy land where birds are living in and you walk through, you actually have for the first time the feeling that you're walking through a very natural environment. You can get into it. You see the butterflies, you see the birds coming out when you're walking through it. But more of it, it is also an expression of freedom. It's a place where you and I can get close. It's an expression of an architect that says, I want rough nature against manicured and designed landscapes. Above all, it is a place where we can dream, a place that we use to remember, to create memories itself. And sometimes as a landscape architect, you use the opportunity to use, in this case, rebar found on site to create a momentum, a moment that people enjoy and create their own memories and dreams about. The park itself is more than just a biophilic park where water and habitats are an identity. It's a place where we play, and we play in a very natural environment. We play with nature, inspired by and with nature. We jump like a slender squirrel within the park. We slider like a red-tailed slide, or we slider like a red-tailed racer in the playground. We fly like a heron, and we create nests for the heron. We dig like a small otter into the sandpit. We hop like a frog from element to element. We greet and meet each other. We remember who our neighbors are. We're meeting new members, and we are seeing how mom and dad play around with their kids, or how the helper is supporting the families. We swim in fresh water, cleaned by nature, like a fish in a tidal pond. We feel the currents within the channels of water, and we ripple in the pond that is made for you and I to play in with water that is purified by nature, by plants, and that is recollected and reused. Last but not least, Kampung Admiralty brings the idea of a city and how architecture and a city bring nature close into the city itself. The idea of being looked over and looked at by green is the main vision for this park. Waking up and seeing the cascading greenery of the landscape not only makes you happy, it also makes you healthier. This is an aging community center whereby the idea is that people from 50 to 95 will live here in a more self-sufficient way. And by giving them the opportunities of being outside within a protected environment with programming at their footstep, we allow people to live longer on their own. And by giving them the possibility of living into a greener, healthier environment, we sustain our lives together. Not only is it about being in the green and seeing in the green, it is also about relaxing, studying, and submerging yourself into this green environment. Allowing people to get easy access into this park and into this garden by sloped pathways, fully UD available or UD accessible, and by cascading greens and a community garden at the rooftop. We allow the community to be part of this development. This garden is 24/7 available for you and I to visit. Going to the 8th floor, you walk yourself through this garden, publicly accessible and owned by the community who lives here. The reference is a kampong village. With that, we say planting is eatable. Fruits are there, seeds are there for you and I to enjoy. It's a reference to the kampong where fruit and vegetables were close to us and the planting palette has been specified to be there. And last but not least, when we're playing within a city, we want to exercise and we want to do that together, young and old as one. And we want to fitness within it as a group together. Is in the active aging is more than just creating a healthy city. It's about ensuring that young and old find each other within one place. And with that, I hope I made you curious to some of our projects and the way we think about sustainable IDs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jelle. It was very inspiring and impressive. So many beautiful places, and also the ecological aspect appeals very much to me. So I look forward to the audience's comments and questions. You may send your questions through the chat box. And now I would like to give the floor to the second keynote speaker, Mrs. Janet Jespersen, to deliver her presentation. Janet, can you share your screen? And the floor is yours. And your time is 20 minutes as well. Microphone.
So I think you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
So sorry about that. I wanted to say thank you everyone for this opportunity to talk about play today. It's one of my favorite talks. I very much enjoyed Jelle's fantastic green landscapes, and I so long for a world to open and us all to meet in real life again. Till then, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to IDN and all of our hosts. I'd like to talk about playgrounds that are a topic which could be called critical for urban infrastructure of today. I'd like to present a bit about the background of KOMPAN and then talk about why play spaces are to be viewed as critical infrastructure, and hopefully give you some inspiration for active play at the end of this presentation. So I seem to have problems. Here we go. Sorry about that. I think there's a delay in the slide. In 1970, KOMPAN was founded by the artist Tom Linhart-Wills, and I just want to dwell on this for a second, because in Tom's world, it was about being a round detail in a square world. He was, the company was founded, he founded KOMPAN in 1970, which was the time when Denmark saw the first high-rise suburbs. So his work is actually founded in the very mission that we have of today, to make our more concrete suburbs more livable, and especially, of course, for children, being that round detail in a square world. So you can say that from the 1970s until now, play has become more serious business. It's become critical infrastructure of healthy communities, and I'll return to why that is. KOMPAN today is a design company designing for active play spaces, but primarily when we talk play spaces, for fun play spaces. So our work in the KOMPAN Play Institute, which I head, is to do child-centered play science. We want to create the wow of great play areas in cities, the stay that makes children and families visit and come back. So looking into that attraction and retention character of play areas in the city. And then not least, we want to make cities with playgrounds that truly develop our children to be, happy citizens of today, and also, creative citizens of our futures. So we monitor trends and scientific research on active play, and that informs our design and innovation in the KOMPAN Group. We work closely with children and their teachers and their parents in development and test of new designs. And then we work as consultants and partners in active outdoor play for cities around the world. So our favorite topic is play spaces, and I'd like to touch a bit upon why those are critical infrastructure. Well, first and foremost, how can you define play? I think Jelle already touched about us playing like animals, and we tend to have neuroscience that we share very much with other mammals. Play is not just something that we learn, it's something that we're born with. It's part of 7 basic emotions in the old brain. The research of Professor Dr. Jaak Pansep and others in neuroscience have actually stated there's a special sense of play in our brains. And it's equal with senses like the urge to seek. When a new child is born, its curiosity and seeking is what makes it seek for food. Our center for rage, that we can get really angry when we're threatened to survive simply. our fear of the unknown, that's a survival factor as well. Our lust, human survival factor. Our care, another survival factor, that we do feel love, we do feel tenderness for our offspring and for others and our fellow human beings. The panic, which Panksepp states is basically the feeling of being left out of the group, not belonging to a unit. That's a human and mammal instinct, that we want to feel that we belong somewhere. And equal with that is play. So play is so much more than just a luxury and something children do for fun. They do it because it's fun, but it's something that they do and that make them thrive and survive, just like all of the other areas that Panksepp looked into in our old brain. Play in modern science has been stated to promote development in all key areas of childhood. That means that play benefits our physical development. We know that play and physical play develops motor skills in early childhood, and that are related to physical fitness in adolescence, and thus probably throughout the rest of our lives. So the active play that we do as young children is something that we can carry with us throughout our life. Social emotional development. We know that social skills in early childhood predict academic success in school. So as much as we are clever at learning, our social instincts is what helps us, relate to that learning and relate to others in learning and benefit others with what we know. Cognitive creative development. Well, language skills in early childhood predict language skills later in life. You may say, well, language skills, what's that got to do with play? But I can just give an image of that in role play of children or dramatic play. That's always a story playing out. Okay, then we said that you were the princess and I was the queen, and here's the evil witch. It's always a story being told, and that childhood play story strongly develops our language skills, as does other areas of collaborative and social play. So all of the areas of human development are developed through play in early childhood and later on in life. Which is why also the UN Declaration of the Rights of UN Convention on the Rights of the Child says that children have a right to play. They have a right to grow through play. The Article 31 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child says that you should encourage and promote the right of the child to participate fully in cultural and artistic life, and encourage the provision of appropriate and equal opportunities for cultural, artistic, recreational, and leisure activity. These are very, very important points, I think, for any city who's got children in it to consider seriously. So, since all of these conventions and on the top of all of this play, these constants in human development and the constants of play, we of course need to have a look at the changes that affect childhood, play and development. And I think that it's fair to say that the biggest change we've seen over the last years and decades is the change in wealth, health, and not least urbanization. I've taken this image from Professor Hans Rösling's Gapminder slides. The Gapminder is a wonderful map that maps where our richness, here circled in blue, our wealth and our health is compared to other nations across the world. And you can see clearly that the more, we sort of turns upwards towards the upper right corner of this slide, the more we urbanize. And urbanization has drastically changed childhood today. One of the ways that it's measurably changed childhoods is in physical inactivity. If we look at the World Health Organization statistics of physical inactivity in the world in 2019, it was 85% of all 11 to 17-year-old girls who are physically inactive. And I've circled in here Indonesia to give you an image of how you're coping. You know, no better or no worse than Denmark, I can tell you, we're the exact same. So this has not got to do with your position in the world. We can't say that, for instance, the southern and northern hemisphere are different here. It's something that affects all nations, that our children are physically inactive. So what do we do about that? And what do we do when most of our children nowadays grow up in cities? Because Yali just illustrated the need for space in our cities. Well, first of all, we need to take a close look at what is active play, what is physical activity, what are the recommendations. And I've illustrated that in this slide, that the World Health Organization, in its 2010 recommendation for physical activity for children, recommends active play as the main activity children should undertake to be physically active. And that's because play is voluntary. It's not something teachers tell you to do. It's something that you do voluntarily. So active play, games, and voluntary enjoyable activity is recommended. How much is then enough? Well, for the 1 to 2 years, a new paper that came out from UNICEF and the World Health Organization last year, it states that 180 minutes a day non-sedentary time is a minimum for the healthy growth of toddlers. When you turn 3 to 4 years, you should top that with at least 60 minutes moderate to vigorous physical activity today. Moderate to vigorous physical activity means that you're out of breath or you can barely talk when you do the activity. It means you get your pulse up. For 5 to 18 years, it's a minimum of 60 minutes a day, moderate to vigorous physical activity. Now, many surveys have shown that play would achieve that amount of physical activity, which is why, of course, we recommend play. But play does much more than that. It trains the motor skills that children need to train, their gross and fine motor skills, their cross-coordination, sensory integration and balance, as you can see in the pictures that I've tried to assemble here on your left. It stimulates muscle strength, the bone density, you know, how strong our bones are, which is primarily built up in childhood, basically. And then not least our cardio and condition. So there are many reasons why we should do play. But you may ask, as playground providers, what playgrounds and what equipment would actually facilitate more medium to vigorous physical activity? Well, in the KOMPAN Play Institute, of course, we've studied that intensely, but other people have too. And earlier this year, a wonderful article came out, Playground Features and Physical Activity in US Neighborhood Parks. Professor McKenzie and others investigated 163 public parks in the United States and stated that each additional play element was associated with 50% more users and 50% more medium to vigorous physical activity. There's often a debate of whether playground equipment matters, but what they stated was it matters deeply for the physical activity of the children in the playground. They also recommend that playgrounds include other things such as restrooms, structures that support a wide variety of movements, and elements that also encourage adults to be active. And then they say spinning structures were associated with more playground use and more medium to vigorous physical activity. And that was interesting because we have a credo at KOMPAN, and that is that responsive play equipment is what children seek out the most. It's what they tend to be most interested in and play the longest at and have most fun in, not least. So I'd like to show you one of our test movies with children, and I hope that this movie will play in your laptops as well. We're testing a little turning unit that oops, sorry. That looks so innocent, doesn't it? But as you can see, it's not only joyful, it's also extremely physical. We've done a white paper about the learning benefits of spinning, spin to think. But if you look at the outcomes here on the right in these little boxes, apart from the physical play value, there's intense social play value in this. The children collaborate, they show empathy of one another, help each other out and communicate of who's taking the next turn. So there's turn taking. And all of the things teachers basically struggle with teaching kids at class, they do instantly when they're out to play. So these were some of the examples of what we do and why play is so critical, and playgrounds are critical for livable urban infrastructure. I'd like to take the last minutes of the presentation to show you some active play inspiration, because as we heard before, space is something that you need more of, and you need it close to where the children live. Many surveys have shown us that you need a maximum of 10 minutes walk to your nearest play facility or green area to increase health in cities. Many great surveys have come out from the Trust for Public Land in the United States and others who've stated that equity you can create with green areas, and that green area proximity is more prevalent in affluent areas of cities than in socio-economically challenged areas of cities. So there's a huge thing to be said for equity in our access to green urban infrastructure close to home. So let's have a look at what I call space making. It should have actually perhaps be called place making. Haven't heard Yella's talk. So some of the things that we've seen work in cities is to utilize housing areas. Singapore is a wonderful example of that you have close to home activities, you have informal supervision from windows, from flats, you have secure family meeting places, and not least if you have nice green areas, you have citizens taking pride in their neighborhood. And then of course you need greenery, pleasant atmosphere with natural elements. Now I show you pictures here from China, from Singapore, from Italy, where you see the seating and play options and not least the greenery close to each other. But I wanted to also show you our capital city of Copenhagen and one of the new estates that's been built there in close to the airport, where they've taken the benefit of course, making parks in the middle of each block, but also sharing a huge park area between them with scattered play areas. Mind you, a central play area could have been a good thing in this area, because we see that the more variety you have in a play area, the more used it is. So scattering it too much is not always a good thing. Having some volume in your play areas will help physical activity. Like here in Yishun River Walk in Singapore, where a housing area opens out to a walk and is publicly accessible, and in that way serves the whole community. Rooftops is another thing that we've seen very much in cities, and it can be done really nicely and with a really nice atmosphere. And again, it's close to home, it's walkable. You can create that pleasant atmosphere with natural elements and play in plants, also in rooftops. It's a secure family meeting place, so why not use it? Like here in Singapore and in Tokyo in Japan, from a kindergarten who used their rooftop playground. Placemaking is also very much in many cities about opening up schools. Here's a wonderful example from a kindergarten in Shenzhen in China. It's not open to the public, but I couldn't help showing what you can do if you opened it up, because in my home country of Denmark, we have a rule of open playgrounds in kindergartens and schools. So they have their gates open during weekends for everyone to enjoy them. But if I should give an example of a wonderful city initiative, it must be the example of Barcelona. They've set out to double their number of playgrounds before 2030, double their budgets for playgrounds before 2030, and have no playgrounds smaller than 50 square meters. They want to bring the nature into the city more, and their space making with traffic calming, greater pedestrian ways and so forth. It's fantastic, and I've shown you some examples here. It's a densely built city, so please follow the link to more examples. Here it's a pathway close to housing that they've simply made into a play park for everyone to enjoy, for physical activity and play to take place close to home. So space making, of course, is also about creating more of the wonderful activity in existing parks, like here in Flagpole Hill in Dallas, USA. Wonderfully accessible, inclusive playground where children of all abilities, parents and grandparents of all abilities can meet and play. And please note, activities big enough for parents to join in play, because parents need to play too. And the cooperative play with children and parents, of course, is fantastic. So this is another area that's taken another view on it. This is Destination Playgrounds and Tucker Family Park in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, where they've really taken the advantage.
Janet,
yes?
Your time is almost
Thank you
up.
very much.
Thank you so much.
This is my last slide.
Oh,
thank you very much
good.
for your attention. Thank you for helping me out here, Ruby. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the exciting presentation. So many beautiful examples, and I'm learning a lot also because of all the research that's being done by KOMPAN Institute. To the attendants, please also raise your questions in the chat box. We're looking forward to your reactions. And next, I would like to give the floor to our third keynote speaker, Mr. Morten Sacco, to deliver your presentation. You may start. I see you already, and I hope you can start sharing your screen.
Yes.
Yes, I see it already.
Yes, very good.
Yeah. Okay, your time is also 20 minutes. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yes, my topic here is about outdoor fitness for cities. And we think it's an interesting topic because so much has happened in that area in the past few years. The agenda here for I'll just get my mouse here. The agenda for my talk here is first a bit of background, why it can be so important to include outdoor fitness in cities, and also something about that not all types of equipment is equally effective in engaging people. Then I will look at how to optimize some creative use of city space, some examples we have seen from around the world. And finally, I will end up with some bigger perspectives of a trend we are seeing in the world where really, really big and beautiful sites are being created. But first, the background here. Let's get my picture out of the way. So it is so important to create active cities. I'm quite sure that you all know that we are moving into cities globally. And right now, about 55% of the global population live in urban areas. And that is actually the number that also goes specifically for Indonesia. It's also a global number that says that 1/3 of the population in the world is physical inactive. And I can tell you the specific number for Indonesia is around close to 25%. So it's a little bit lower. But the special thing about Indonesia is that you have a very young population. It is 84% of your population is below the age of 55. And you also have diabetes occurrence like in the rest of the world. So the picture in Indonesia is that you have the similar problems with inactivity, diabetes, but in a younger population. And they will grow older and carry these problems with them as they get older, and that will accumulate. So when we're living in cities, it's absolutely mandatory that we make those cities inviting for physical activity. It's a must that we do it. Here's a study that was published in the Lancet in 2016. And what the researchers did in this study, that again was a global study, there were in 5 different continents, 16 different cities. And what they did was they compared the least friendly, least activity-friendly neighborhoods with the most activity-friendly neighborhoods around the world, in all kinds of cities. And what they came up with, quite interesting, was that when you compared the least activity-friendly to the most activity-friendly neighborhoods, then the difference between living in those two types of cities was equivalent to half of the recommendations for being physical active, half of the WHO recommendations, which is that you should be active 150 minutes per week. So simply living in the right urban environment means tremendous amounts for how physical active you probably are. So cities are important, and it's also, you can be active, of course, also indoors in cities, but we really want to make a pledge for being active outdoors, because of course there's the usual benefits that you get from exercise as indoors, wherever you're exercising, but you also get benefits from being exposed to natural daylight. It's very important for what we call the circadian rhythm, and that is you have healthy sleep patterns, basically, which is again very important for your immune function and many other things. And also now in the COVID-19 critical situation we live in, being outdoors, it's much safer. If there's something you have to do, then do it outdoors. The risk is 20 times lower for catching COVID-19 in the outdoors than in the indoors. And then also our experience, these outdoor fitness sites, they reduces inequity, because we see that especially in areas with lower income groups, these areas become very important. They actually become the fitness center that these low income groups use on a regular basis, because maybe they cannot afford the normal commercial indoor fitness centers. And we also see another interesting thing is that it actually strengthens the community where you live, that you have this local fitness sites where neighbors can attend. Now, a few words on what outdoor fitness equipment is, because I'm quite sure that all of you, most of you in this webinar have seen sites at different places, and maybe you've also tried the equipment. And the truth is that 10, 20 years ago, outdoor fitness was second grade compared to indoor fitness. We have an example here on the left to the screen. And not much emphasis had been made on how to have the right workload and ergonomics and stuff like that. So just to compare to a modern product that you see on the right side of the screen here, where you have a resistance mechanism, so you can choose just the workload that's right for you, even though if you're completely untrained or you're an athlete, you can get the right workload. There's a touch screen. The equipment is self-powered, doesn't need external power. It has optimized ergonomics, and you can even connect your smartphone to it via Bluetooth, so you can run third-party apps that can be motivating and upload your health data and stuff like that. So it's a completely different world. And if any of you want to look at how we do it in KOMPAN, where we collaborate with universities when you do things like that, we actually, to a really high degree, use science to design these things here, so we are sure that they're providing the health benefits that are needed to fight diabetes and so on. Equipment, again, has developed a lot. So outdoor fitness equipment is not just one type. You can actually today design very specifically whether towards a specific target population, whether it being youth or just general, ordinary, untrained or trained people, or maybe even the aging groups that, for instance, has high benefits from exercising towards fall prevention. So there's a lot of options for hitting just the right target group here. So with this background here, I'll move on to talk about city space and how we can do creative use of city space, because it's a challenge. And also, of course, in Indonesian cities like Jakarta that are so extremely dense, it's big parks is a rare luxury. So here's an example by an analysis done by Gill architects in some years ago on Seattle. And what they did was they analyzed the different open spots that were, after all, in the cities, and they categorized them as good quality, average quality, and poor quality in terms of how much use they would have for their citizens. And the idea with such an analysis is to say that, of course, all areas with poor quality has the potential to be upgraded. And one example of that is here from Medellin in Colombia, where some years ago the mayor, he gave it out to the citizens themselves to take responsibility of these open areas and do something with them. And on the left side here, you see it's outside a cafe where they created a small park, simply a little bit of play equipment. And the other side here, you see from a residential area themselves created a small, very, very basic exercise area. But the experience from these things here is that when, you know, people really take these smaller sites as part of their identity and part of belonging to the community. So the idea of pocket park should be used if not much space is available. Here's another image on from Singapore on a different style, where it's you know it's still a small area that has been used to a very nice fitness area that can be used by the nearby residents. So the idea of pocket parks is something that can be explored when space is really a critical factor. Now, here coming back to Denmark, I'm also quite sure that many of you know Bjarke Ingels group, the architect group that create fantastic buildings around the world. And here's the also famous power plant creation in Copenhagen, where they actually got that, you can say, crazy idea to put a ski slope on top of a power plant construction. Nobody have ever done that before, but the idea in itself to get the maximum diverse use of the buildings that we have to make is fantastic. And the level of creativity here. Here's another example for Copenhagen, and I also really like this. This is a parking garage, and there are parking garages everywhere, and often they only serve the purpose of for cars to have space to park in. So here's the use of the rooftop for a fitness area, and I like clever detail here. As you can see, there's the staircase on the front of the building, and they actually placed a button at the bottom where you can push, and then you can run up the staircase and you can see your time when you get to the top of the roof. But this type of creative thinking, again, where space is scarce. Going to China, here's the Jinjiang rooftop garden for seniors. And Jelle also showed some examples of rooftop use, and Jeanette as well. So it's a trend we see. And this here is a building that is created mostly as a residential building for aging persons, but using the rooftop. And also in dense cities, rooftops are often the place where you have light and air and maybe the space for creating an area. So this type of creative thinking can be necessary in modern cities. Here's an example from Chile, where it's actually a fitness center below the roof here. And partly due to the COVID-19 situation, they thought we have to also supply exercise outdoors. So they are now creating this fitness center here on top of a roof. And again, as you can see, it's a very modern fitness center with high attraction level and something for everybody to do there. So that was city space use. What about if you have more space available, parks and open areas? Well, first I want to touch upon one thing that's a question we often get when designing, is that the idea of creating a fitness path where you can do a little bit of exercise, move on, do some more, and so on, compared to you just take whatever exercise equipment you want to use and place it in one side. And here's from a study that came out this year here, where they actually compared two parks that had these two situations. And I can just say that from the conclusion, our experience and the science, that the lower solution is the best, where you agglomerate, where you create destination power for the site you're creating. So people actually want to go there. You know, they can decide themselves how they want to exercise, and they have opportunities. So the fitness path idea is doesn't work in practice, I can tell you. Here's an example of a typical general use outdoor sites. You can see there are lots of opportunities for everyone. There are functional strength training. There are cardio area up in the right corner there. In the back, you have a football playing field, and you also have a playground just next to it. Also note the detail where you have the cardio in the upper right and you have the playground just opposite. It's a request we get very often from parents that, you know, they don't want to sit on a bench, watch their kids play. They also want to be active. And this combination of having cardio equipment next to the playground is becoming a trend. It's very sought after. But you can also create sites that are very targeted to more, you know, specific populations. And this example here is towards elderly. And the focus here is on fall prevention and balance, and then you have an arm bike and a stationary bike, but you left out all the equipment that the young persons would typically use, also just to make it just for this population here. It could be an aging residential area next to a site like this here. Now, here's an example actually from the university where I work, and this is the athletics exploratorium from University of Southern Denmark, and it won the IOC, the Olympic Prize in 2015 for being the best outdoor activity facility in the world. And you can see it's a great open area. We used to be a normal athletics area, but we upgraded it. And this year has inspired to sites around the world, multifunctional, where typically also families would go. And here you have an example for how the trend is this is a site being built in Israel. And you can see there's so many opportunities for being active or maybe just hang out. And depending what type of person you are, you can select a zone where to be. Actually, the site doesn't look like this. It looks like this year. I just took away the trees so you could see the equipment. But the idea is also that we create spaces that are inviting to be in. It's not just about placing exercise equipment, it's space creation, also as Dielle talked about. And as you can see from this rendering here, it's something where you actually would feel comfortable, you feel safe, and at the same time, you have the openness that you also want in a city like that, or in a space like that. And finally here, this is a very beautiful site being made in Holland, in the Netherlands, next year. And I think this is one of the most sublime examples of combining all these elements here we are talking about, where you have the playground area, but you also have super great exercise facilities. And actually, if you look at the blue zone, you have the cardio area, and then there's an orange zone just above that, where it's actually strength training equipment, just the same quality as you know from indoors fitness centers. So there you have something where everybody, even though you're not an athlete, you're just a normal untrained person who needs exercise, you can go there as a family with your kids. You can do simple, safe, effective exercise. Or if you have your teenagers with you, they can go and do bodyweight CrossFit type of exercises. So this type of multifunctional, really impressive site that has destination power, they're becoming incredibly popular, and we see it as where the demand is moving forward. Space creation, that's what it's about. Where people are really attracted to go and be physical, active, and fun and motivation. That's what makes people being active. So I think that was close to my 20 minutes, and the questions will come later, but I'll just stop sharing.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Morten. It was within 20 minutes. There's so many fantastic examples, and thank you for pointing out the importance of doing exercise outdoors together with children, elderly, and I'm also very much looking forward to the example that is being constructed in the Netherlands. I was also impressed by the examples on top of rooftops of buildings, and also for pointing out the works of Gale architects, because in Rotterdam we have invited Jan Gale several times. So thank you so much. I've seen many interesting questions popping up, and I would welcome more questions. And right now, I would like to ask Pa Bob Hendrianto to reflect on the previous presentations or share your thoughts on today's topic. Pa Bob, can you please share your screen? The floor is yours, and you have 5 minutes.
Yeah, I will share
Silakan, Pak.
my 5-minute slide. Sorry. I would like to say to all of speaker, great presentation. I got a lot insight. How green and blue infrastructure, playground, and outdoor fitness equipment promotes healthy activities, healthy behaviors. And now the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us anything. So it's to be open to change. Based on playfulness definition, we need to transform mundane daily activities, a boring day into fun ones, and brings people together. And I capture from the speaker and my experience, we can create a playful design through mapping of playful experience from game to other non-games context experience. But we can also create playful design through metaphor of nature, analogy, and philosophy. I remember during my childhood in the village, I play a slide on the line that has slope. Then I jump from top of riverbank to water. Then swim in the river, playing sands, playing mud. It was fun. I'm very lucky as a villager because I played in nature playground. This past experience has influenced me in working and designing public space in Jakarta. But now we have to bring playful design into the city level, neighborhood level, and local scale, whether outdoors, indoors, museum, public space, public park, and retail. I have a good quote from Paul about the playful. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. Repeat again and again. So from now, we need to keep playing. As KOMPAN branding, let's start playing. Let's start play and let's start play together. But we are grateful to be in tropical climate because we can spend more time outdoors in public space and public park. And the role of playfulness consists of first, healthier life invites people in healthy activities into older age, not just for kids, not just for young men, but we need to invite elder people too. And the second is togetherness. Creates a magic circle that transforms mundane daily activities into fun ones and brings people together. And turn is inexpensively, not always require tools to do the activities. And now Jakarta, designing Jakarta more playful, we have revitalized one public park in Jakarta, Pouring Park, in 2019. We provide playground, dry fountain, and parkour equipment based on community. This picture shows the children playing in dry fountain. They get water experience because they're in contact with water. That's very fun. And then now we have to transmit it. We need to bring this condition to then settlement to neighborhood level and local scale. And then we have made a playground in accordance with the potential topography of site and in between the existing trees. And Jakarta now, playground has become a mandatory facility in every public park in Jakarta. And recent years, we have tried to provide public park by integrating green and blue infrastructure, integrating landscape and water planning. This one of public space in Jakarta, Terowongan Kendal. Terowongan Kendal is that the TOD part of Central Jakarta has become a fun place and playful for daily commute. But right now, Jakarta also expanding backline infrastructure and is expected to be completed later this year. I hopefully for the next future, Jakarta more playful and healthy city. Thank you, Bu Wiwi. It's enough.
My apology, Pak Bob. It's 5 minutes is up, but thank you so much for updating us on of all the beautiful public spaces that have been constructed lately. Looking forward to go to be able to travel to Jakarta again. Thank you so much. So now I would like to give the floor to Pak Andika Prasetya. Pak Andika,
Yes.
if you can share your screen.
Yes,
And
thank
give
you, Bu
your
Wiwi.
reflection for
I will
5
try
minutes also.
to. Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you, Pak.
Yes. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's showing. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, thank you. First of all, I would like to comment on the approach that is used to sort of integrating all the important values on urban living, which is very well categorized by JEL there under three main themes, that is the economies, the ecologies, and also the enjoyment. I think it has a very clear message as guidelines for anybody who's developing or managing the public space. Here in Indonesia, we also have the 5 minimum function of public space, including the ecology, economies, socio-cultural, as well as the aesthetics and emergency use of space. So I guess it can be said that looks rather similar to your approach, where the 3 function of socio-cultural, aesthetics, and emergency use space were packed with more intriguing use of words called the enjoyment, which I think is very fantastic. And then the terms of a green and blue open urban space, then the green infrastructure, the water sensitive urban design is a very common concept nowadays, where cities need to be resilient, especially to adapt to the climate change. Starting from the 2015-2016, we tried to use this approach by mainstreaming the concept to be used as the ultimate goals for any public works, public space construction projects. But I think there are still many obstacles and challenges towards this approach, especially under the needs of more capacity buildings for the architects and engineer, landscape designers, and also the deep understanding for the government employee and also the other stakeholders under this approach. So I think this kind of webinar, I found it very useful to respond on the issues of capacity buildings. Jelly, thank you. You have given so many projects as an example, which I think is very nice. And in terms of providing many ideas on adding the values of a healthier and more playful urban space. So to sum up Jill's presentation, I would say it's great to learn from your experience. Looking forward to implement some of your success story here in Indonesia. As Bob said, that I hope I really have the hope for the future that Jakarta will have many qualities on the public space. And then for the second presentation by Jeanette, one thing crossed my mind is that we have shown how outdoor amenities could invite more people to actively utilize certain tools to play and exercise in a wide, attractive public open space. We could imagine while being in a big open space, exposed with fresh air, fresh water, then we have interactive tools. We could be a very, very happy person, I think. And like many audience say that being happy, being very playful is not only for children, it's also for adults and maybe for the elderly. Good things that those were designed based on the research, I think is a very good and it is well thought, resulting great outcomes, and it will make sure that it comes up with the maximum benefits for all the users. Another interesting, one of the examples that the statement of plays one of the most basic, 7 basic emotion in the old brain. So I think it would endorse not only for better health physically, but also a better mental condition. As you said before, it also developing soft skills and social skills, which I think is very, very good thing. Listening to your presentation, then I think it's normal for me to say that happiness is the most highlighted words. I hope you all agree with that, which makes me happy and smiling right now. It was a very inspiring share of thoughts. Thank you. For the next presentation, it's also a very great presentation by Morten. It's a good idea what Morten said about optimizing the use of space, fill it up with many instruments for many different activity, especially related with outdoor fitness activity. The data that Morten showed that about 33% globally urban space being inactive is a very sad fact actually. Having so many examples, great designs, equipped with so many ideal facility described by Morten, then I would say it gave me so many ideas, especially on the to add more values into our public space. And so ideas in terms of health is very important. Maybe as you said before, it could reduce the rates of diabetes for the urban dwellers maybe. So I think that's all my comments and thoughts regarding the 3 presentations. So that's 5 minutes for me. I think there are so many cool information. So I would say thank you. I will give the floor back to you, Ibu Wiwi.
Thank you so much, Pa Andika. That was really very short, within 5 minutes, and so valuable feedback, which is very useful. So I would like now to announce that we will soon start the group discussion in the breakout sessions. There will be 4 groups, and each will be we'll have 2 moderators and 1 speaker, and this will go automatically by the team who has been preparing for this. This will go on for 20 minutes, and you are invited to give your input and reactions. And so I'm looking forward to see you after 20 minutes in the plenary session where we can have our Q&A. Thank you. So welcome everyone in the plenary session. I hope you had a very lively discussion. Our session was very interesting with lots of input also from the Indonesian context. For now,